Greetings from Geneva. This is Eric Tars, Senior Attorney at the National Law Center on Homelessness and Poverty, reporting from Day 2 of the U.S. hearings before the UN Committee Against Torture. Today was a busy day for our delegation of 70 advocates from the U.S. In 8 hours of back-to-back meetings, we presented our issues to the committee members, the U.S. government, and to committee staff. Again, the issues ran the gamut from police crimes to prison and detention conditions, gay conversion therapy to Catholic priest abuses, military rape to Guantanamo, discrimination against trans women of color to solitary confinement and the death penalty. Many testimonies were emotional ones, given by directly affected victims of these abuses or their families, such as the parents of Michael Brown, who called not just for accountability for the Ferguson Police Department, but for full implementation of the treaty's provisions to ensure no future Fergusons happen. The Law Center's main focus, the criminalization of homelessness, was raised in two statements to the committee. Ethan Vietz van Leer of We Charge Genocide gave a powerful statement on behalf of the Police Crimes Working Group, naming two homeless victims of criminalization. Anna Brown, who died after being denied medical care and accused of trespassing on hospital grounds and was carried off by police to die in her jail cell, and Jerome Murdaugh, a homeless veteran who baked to death in his overheated jail cell after being arrested for trespassing in a public housing stairwell where he sought refuge from the sub-freezing temperatures in New York last winter. Anne Claire Bach of the Women, LGBTI, and Other Individuals Working Group then stated,
"We urge the committee to recognize that criminalization of homelessness promotes sleep deprivation, hunger, thirst, and other degrading conditions, and punishes people for simply trying to survive without housing."
The committee members inquired which law criminalizes homelessness in the U.S., to which I replied, there's no one specific law in the U.S. that criminalizes homelessness. These are laws that take place mostly at the municipal level, at the local level. But a survey that our center conducted in 2009 of 235 cities across the U.S. Demonstrated that 17% had a citywide ban on camping, 30% prohibited sitting or lying in public places, 47% prohibited loitering, 47% prohibited begging in some public places, and then a subsequent report that we did in 2014 documented a 60% increase in camping bans, a 25% ban on citywide bans on loitering, loafing, and vagrancy, and 35% increase on bans on sitting and lying down, and 119% increase in laws forbidding people to sleep even in their cars. I then shared the positive steps the government had taken, including the unprecedented recognition of criminalization as a violation of the Convention Against Torture in its 2012 Searching Out Solutions report. But despite these positive rhetorical steps, the U.S. government and the federal government has not taken any active steps to discourage the practice at the local level through anything beyond its words. And we need specific questions on will the U.S. government implement funding conditions to discourage criminalization and to encourage the implementation of constructive alternatives. After the session, I followed up with additional information from our reports, as well as a powerful survey of Denver Homeless Out Loud, who submitted their report to the committee to help their campaign to get a homeless Bill of Rights passed in Colorado. We then dashed to a consultation with the U.S. government, where I started my testimony on a positive note. First, the Department of Justice and U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness have already recognized that criminalization may violate the CAT in a report they put out in 2012 called Searching Out Solutions. The first recognition in a domestic agency report of a domestic practice potentially having human rights implications. Second, the Interagency Council now hosts an entire web page dedicated to human rights and alternatives to criminalization, and has posted blogs sharing the news of the Human Rights Committee and Committee on Elimination of Racial Discrimination recommendations earlier this year, actually taking steps to push news of treaty reviews out to their fellow agencies and to the state and local level, a model difficult to find elsewhere in government. Third, HUD has just made a reference to human rights violations of criminalization in informal guidance that they put out last month. I concluded with a request that the government make a formal commitment to moving beyond rhetoric and implementing grant incentives to discourage criminalization practices. We ended the day with an evening of more personal testimonies of human rights abuses to the committee's staff. Again, these victims shared bravely so that others won't have to face the torture and cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment that they have faced. Again, you can follow us on Facebook or Twitter, or sign up for our mailing list to continue the conversation on how to make human rights at home a reality in America. Thank you, and good night from Geneva.